Hello, my name is Cindy Garcia, and this is my Week 7 presentation on non-tax sources of revenue for the MPA 530 Public Finance and Budgeting class. For this week's discussion board presentation, I'll be talking about the primary non-tax revenue sources that cities tend to utilize to generate revenue, the non-tax sources of revenue that are most prominent in the city of Baldwin Park. I will be discussing why Baldwin Park relies upon those revenue sources and discuss any recommendations. Non-tax revenue is a source of income that the government receives. This type of revenue is charged against services that are provided by the government, and it becomes payable only when the services that are offered are used. The primary sources of non-tax revenue for cities are user fees, charges for services, and funds that the cities receive from higher levels of the government, such as grants. User fees and charges for services for city utilities like water, sewer, and waste collection are known to be the largest source of city revenues. There are two types of grants that contribute to the city revenue. They are categorical grants and block grants. Categorical grants are grants that go towards a specific purpose or program, whereas block grants provide funding to a broad functional area and are given to support general programs such as community development, housing, and public services. In the city of Baldwin Park, the primary non-tax sources of revenue are charges for services and fines and penalties. For the fiscal year 2020-2021, 14.7% of the general fund's revenue comes from charges for services. Fines and penalties make up 1.4% of that revenue. On this slide, I provided a screenshot of Baldwin Park's general fund revenues for charges for services and fines and penalties for the fiscal year 2018 to 2019 through 2020 to 2021. Some of the charges for services include services for fees for administrative, background check, booking, false alarm, jail, Metrolink feeder service, zoning, witness and recreation fees. Some of the fines and penalties include parking and truck parking citations, vehicle code fines, and community enhancement sites. The city of Baldwin Park relies upon these revenue sources to help pay for services and facilities like police department, fire department, emergency services, parks and rec, flood protection, water, sewer, and other facilities. When it comes to changing anything pertaining to the revenue sources, the only time I would recommend that anything would change, it would be if the services or facility fees increase drastically. By having high service fees, this could potentially decrease the revenue coming in for these services or facilities. So when it comes to revenues, property taxes, which is a tax revenue source that we discussed last week, is typically one of the main sources of revenues for cities. Then when it comes to non-tax revenue, user fees, charges for services, and grants are typically the most prominent for cities in general. This concludes my presentation. I hope you all enjoy the remainder of your week.